And now I will share my presentation. Oh. Could you please approve that you see the presentation?
Yes, okay. We can see.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. And let's move on to the final part of the training. And I will present you how to write the implementation part under Marijas Sklodovskas Kirī Actions Postdoctoral Fellowships 2026 call. Again, I'm starting with the same, that I'm showing you what is under this criterion. So this time I skipped the importance, as I think I already did this 5 times. So it is important to address all the parts and also the implementation. You might have an excellent part, excellent impact part, but if an evaluator sees that you have no idea how to implement this, so you don't have a specific, so to say, a correct plan how to carry out the work, then this might also be a very big issue. So let's see what is under this criterion. So under implementation, we have 3 main blocks. So first thing about the work plan. So how do you plan to carry out your project? Second aspect will be about the assessment of risks. I will also give you some insights, some examples, some approaches, what to use when you're going to think about your risk assessment. And the third thing is about effort assigned to work packages. So is this balanced? Is there enough tasks? Isn't this overwhelmed? So some of the work packages. So this is basically about realistic work plan that you are proposing. So let's start with the first thing. I thought I skipped it, but I didn't. So why it is important addressing implementation part? So I think after so many times me repeating that it is important addressing all the parts, this is already clear, but still I have some arguments for you. So first of all, if you get funded, so if you're on a main list, and congratulations, you will get the funding, then you will be the one implementing what you have promised. So having a right plan that you understand and you have all the time, skills, and resources to implement this, then it's in benefit for you. So again, clear and very comprehensive plan is very easy to navigate for you. So you will not be worrying about whether to rush something in the project or you're late for something. So a good plan is a helper for you. It's a really good tool in a project. And of course, when you are, as a postdoctoral fellow who is writing this project, you are deciding the flow of the project. So you have the chance to decide when and where you're going for a secondment. You put the plan together, and this is up to you. How do you want to proceed with these things? And when we go to a concrete evaluation questions, so there are many, even though you do not have that much space in the proposal. Again, 10 pages for all 3 parts. And there are so many questions, but actually in practice, we will see that this is about the quality of your work plan and how you have put everything together. So about clear and comprehensive plan and risk assessment. So let's see what I have here for you. So one thing that I wanted to explain is the terminology used here. As I saw that we have some people who don't have any experience previously with the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships, or maybe with the projects and so on. So I will be using terms as work package, deliverables, milestones. So this is basically all project management terminology. And for those who don't know, so work package is a part of your project. So you split your work in thematic packages so that it is easier for you to navigate the project. It is not one huge bunch and you have no idea where to start, what to finish, and what to continue with. So you have your work separated in different packages. So this is the work package, and this is so a thematic part of your project. And I will talk later on also about deliverables and milestones, but like one of the approaches when you think about the work package is that when you decide that I will have this work package, you need to have in mind what is the aim here. So what do you need to accomplish within this work package? Breaking down what are the specific tasks. So what do you need to do actually here within this work package? And then we'll have deliverables. So these are the outputs that you are going to share with the funders or with the European Commission. And so the milestones, which are the turning points, and I think I have also the definition a bit later. So these will be the main terminology, so the main terms that we're going to use now when we're talking about the implementation. So when you think about the postdoctoral fellowships and how to think about the work plan, how to set up the work packages, so this is the recommended approach using so maximum 3 work packages that are dedicated to the research itself. Again, reminding that work packages needs to be connected with your research objectives, or if you have hypotheses, then how do you going to break it down? So thematically or by tasks, or so what will be your approach? How you're going to divide your research in smaller parts? So normally, if you are writing your objectives, breaking down your work within 2 or 3 or maybe 4 research objectives, then it kind of tells you already the structure of the work packages. And this is recommended not to split it too much, so not to have too many work packages, especially for the postdoctoral fellowship, as you have only 2 years. And if you have too many work packages, this is already a bit confusing and makes too much management, unnecessary management. So that is why the suggested amount of work packages dedicated to research is 2 to 3 work packages. Then there is a management package. I've seen some projects who do not put separately a management work package, but it is integrated somewhere else. But then you need to show it by deliverables and by tasks that this is dedicated to management. But this just eases your process if you show that you have separate package for management. And normally, what is the content here in the management work package? These are basically the tasks that are related to the meeting with supervisor, so working on these kind of deliverables that are sent to the commission, so setting up the plan, so career development plan, and also dedicating the time that will be spent to the reports for the European Commission, so the technical financial reports of the project that will be sent to the European Commission. And it's nice that you're not combining them with the research and it's separately, as this is a specific tasks dedicated to management. Then it is suggested as training and this knowledge transfer and experience, so gaining new skills is one of the biggest aspects also in the postdoctoral fellowship. So this is very important to show what exactly is going to be in your training. Another suggestion is that you might have a separate work package on training and transfer of knowledge. Of course, up to you. How do you name it? What title do you put here? And in this situation, if you're deciding of having a dedicated work package on training and transferable skills, or mainly on training, then this should exactly correspond to the proposal text and this section that is dedicated to the training, so section 1.3. So please make sure that these are interrelated and they correspond to each other, that they're not the opposite things, or something is missing in one place and not put in other. And lastly, that is not very loved by applicants, but communication, dissemination, and exploitation. As communication should cover, should take time within the whole duration of the project, I highly recommend putting this as a separate work package, as you can show communication as a separate process that is ongoing within the whole project. Then also you can put dedicated tasks that are corresponding to dissemination or exploitation. And this is like an approach that might be also easy to use. And in this case, so you need to refer to, so you need to see if this information is corresponding to section 2.2, so in the impact section. So this is kind of general approach that you might use. Of course, if you don't like something or you feel something that some different approach is better for you, of course, feel free. My task is to give you some examples, some guidance, some directions. Next, I would like to highlight another thing that I saw and hear from my applicants, that they are confusing things. So there are two different things, and one is deliverable and another is research output. You can find these definitions in the template. So when you open the template for postdoctoral fellowships, at the very first pages, you have the definitions. And the one thing to understand here is the difference between those two. Deliverable is a report that is sent to the European Commission or the agency that is managing the funding. And basically, this is to ensure the monitoring, so that the project officer who is following the process of your project, so he or she has an understanding how your project is going. And mainly, these are mandatory deliverables that are set already in the documents that you might see. So there are some mentioned in the work program. And mostly these are reports on scientific activities or results, and some mandatory deliverables like data management plans, ethics or security requirements. And this again comes in only if relevant. You fill the ethics self-assessment, and if relevant, and if it's requested from you and your project, then you will fill in these deliverables. And research output is, so the results that are generated by your action. For example, so publication is also an output. And this is not a deliverable by default, so you don't need to send to the European Commission all your research results. I would suggest thinking about the main outputs that are critical. For example, if you really need to gather some data in terms to do a task further on, then this might be one of the deliverables from the scientific output. That might be shared with the project officer, just for the officer see that you have this done already, and from this action, all the rest of the activities relies on. So, and another research outputs are so softwares, algorithms, protocols, electronic notebooks. So not all the research outputs should be by default sent to the European Commission. You do not need to overload them with the scientific results, but think in a way that about those who are the most crucial, that you really need to show to the European Commission in terms for them to understand that you are on the right track, you are not lagging behind, everything is good, and you will be safe in continuing with your research. When I talk about the mandatory deliverables, so here is the flower of mandatory deliverables that are set out for the postdoctoral fellowships. One part of them should be prepared on the first half of the fellowship. So there is a mobility declaration submitted within first 20 days of your project. So this is basically done in the portal. This is not something very complicated. And I already mentioned to you that there's a career development plan that should be jointly made by postdoc and his or her supervisor. This is also requested to submit not later than first 6 months of the project, and of course later on this might be updated. And also data management plan. So there's a There is already template available. I showed you the path, how to find it already in Funding and Tenders portal. So this is another mandatory deliverable that you will be delivering within your project, and plan for dissemination and exploitation of results. And after the fellowship, or at the end of the fellowship, there are some evaluation questionnaires that you as the postdoctoral fellow will be invited to fill in. So one is at the end of the training, and another follow-up questionnaire is after 2 years. So after 2 years, when you have finished the postdoctoral fellowship. So just for the commission, see how are you going further. So what is happening with you after you finished your fellowship. So this was about the mandatory deliverables, just for you to know what is expected by the European Commission, so you can add this in a Gantt chart. And I would also like to share with you, so what is the milestone? For each project, there might be different number of milestones. The milestones itself, by their character, might be different. But basically, what you need to understand is that a milestone is a control point in the project that helps you to chart progress. So I like to talk about milestones in a way that imagine that these are the doors that you open and go further. So something in your project is finished, and it allows you to take a step forward. So this is a milestone. And it is very important also to show what are the milestones foreseen in your project, as this will be evaluated. So are these milestones well aligned with the tasks that you will have? So the correspondence between the all parts of your work. And at the beginning of the slide, so you have some examples. So how to know and what it means to have a verifiable milestone. So some examples, for example, if you're running some tests, so successful test run is one of the milestones. So you know what is working and what is not. So if you have a successful test run, you can proceed further. Deposition of some data sets, moving to some place, for example, if you foresee a secondment, or for example, if a postdoc is somewhere from the third country, you need to also take into account the visa process, and receiving visa or having this process finished might also be one of the milestones. Of course, we need to think, is this happening within the project lifetime already? So when you sign the grant agreement and when you foresee the start of the project, it really depends on reality. But yeah, this is also one of the things to see. Then another examples are, for example, if you have finished your ethical improvement, if it's necessary in your project, completion of some data collection, or validation of some theoretical or methodological aspects. So what it means practically, so this is not from a funded project. This is just an example from MSCA handbook from Radiance project. This is just an example how a Gantt chart for 2 years project looks like. Here we have 13 months. So it seems that here is a placement foreseen. That is why the project duration is extended for 6 months. So normally European fellowship lasts for 24 months. So if you're not having a non-academic placement, then your Gantt chart will finish at 24 months. But so this is the main approach when preparing a Gantt chart. So you have the timeline, whether it's by the month. Normally it is like that when we have 24 months fellowship. This is not that long, and it is possible to show each month. And then you have all the work packages on your left described. So you have the title, and then you show how long time is expected to spend for each work package. Of course, this is not a so to say, this is not a full Gantt chart, as here we do not see deliverables. So you need to put deliverables here, milestones. And some people also put tasks, but see for yourself if this is not too overwhelming if you put too many tasks. So in this project, there's only an approach used when showing only work packages. I've seen some when you have conference, add here some milestones, deliverables. So this is a very good approach to show. So the reporting period, as we know already, the mandatory deliverables are career development plan, data management plan. So you can already put this, for example, in the 5th month that there is a deliverable, and in the text you explain what is this deliverable. When we talk about risks assessment, there are also many approaches how to address this. As in project management theory, we do have different approaches in assessing risks, but this is one of the approach that I might suggest to applicants, as also the European Commission. And so the evaluators would like to see the likelihood and so the severity of your risks. I see from the evaluation summary reports that they are expecting especially this. It doesn't mean that you need to put the matrix. So this is called the risk assessment matrix. You may also explain this narratively. If you like this approach better, you may put a matrix itself as a picture in your proposal. But what does it mean, a risk assessment? So meaning that you think about the whole process of your research and your project. And first thing to do is you name the risks. So you identify potential risks. There might be different nature. There might be scientific risks, technical risks. If you have some infrastructure involved and you're dependent on the infrastructure, might be some administrative risks, but I will show you in next slide the types of the risks. So first thing would be for a postdoctoral fellow to define, so what are the potential risks, and then determine, so what is the opportunity for these risks to arise, to happen, and if they happen, so what is the impact? So is the impact very low, or if something goes wrong, then you're blocked for going further in your research. So this is the way of thinking and determining the likelihood. So how possible it is that this risk may occur, and how big the impact would be if it's happening. The third step is finding the solution or proposing a solution, and this is called the risk mitigation strategy. So basically, in the theory, there are few ways how to think about the risk mitigation. So first of all, if you have already identified the risk, first thing to think is about, is there something that you may do in advance to avoid of this risk happening? So is there any steps that you may take in advance to avoid this risk of happening at all? Second approach is in the case there's actually that nothing can be done, then you're accepting that this risk is happening, but then you again need to think, so what might be the impact then of this risk happening? Next is transferring the risk. So there is no chance to avoid it. It might happen, but if it's happening, so how are you going to manage it? So what are you going to do to reduce the impact of the risk? And the third, basically I mentioned already the third. So what are you going to do if you cannot avoid the risk, but it's happening, and what are the things that you may change in your work to reduce the impact of the risk? And of course, this is suggested to also within the work check your risks, and maybe there will occur some new risks that you haven't thought about when writing a proposal. So when we talk about the types of the risks, I have mentioned only 3 here. So there are administrative risks, So some improvements are not there. Something happens, I don't know. You cannot prepare a report. Something has really. There are some things why you cannot proceed with the reports. For example, this is a purely administrative thing. So reporting might be considered in this risk category. Scientifically, so if some of the methods are not working or you need to adjust something, so what might be scientifically the risks in your project? And the third thing, third category is technical issues. So any technical things that you might think of. And this is another option for you to choose. So one is narrative, one is preparing a risk matrix, or the third is making a table. So if this is a better and more understandable way for you to use, so please feel free. And of course, I left 3 dots here. So as if you have anything else that you might think of, any other types of risks, you may add also these. And so again, helping a bit more you to understand what might be the mechanisms when you're thinking about risk assessment. So first of all, explaining, when we talk about mitigation of the risks, explaining how your progress will be monitored. So here examples are that you will have regular meetings with your so project management support, for example, if it concerns the financial part of the project, or technology transfer office when it comes to IPR, or you will have regular meetings with your supervisor to check how the progress is going and discuss the issues or challenges that you're facing. Identifying specific risks that could delay the progress of the deliverables. So delayed start, for example, in case of you need to get a visa. So this might be also a risk that you might identify. Some kind of equipment failure, so it also requires some time to fix this. If you receive some insignificant results and you need to start all over or do something differently, so some ideas to think of. A suggestion is including not only scientific risks, but also non-scientific risks. So meaning that also some administrative and technical risks should be put in place, that it also shows for the evaluators that you have a full picture of the risks that might influence your project. And as this is a public money, evaluators would like to see that you have thought of as many risks that might really impact your project. Another suggestion is that including this level of risk probability, low, medium, or high. This is just showing the importance of the risk. Yes, and another thing that I'm mentioning many times in many sub-criterions, that if you're not mentioning risks or saying that you don't have that many risks and you're not assessing them at all, so this is a place where you can lose points. So please think of, brainstorm for yourselves, look up for some ideas, look up for some examples, and think about some practicalities. So what might be the risks that might influence your project. And this is, I believe, the final part. This is evaluation question 3.2, which comes, and this concerns the institution that you're going to. So the hosting institution might be also secondment host or non-academic placement host. So this is about the host, the quality of the organization and the arrangement that it has. And this means that you need to involve the hosting institution in terms to describe the best the host, so to say, as this will be also evaluated, that the host has this all infrastructural logics logistics, facilities, and support for the postdoctoral fellow to carry out his or her work. And when it comes to hosting arrangements, in the proposal part B1, you will not have that much place. So make sure that you have some main ideas put in part B1, but there is a table in part B2 where you have a table and you will be filling in that. So make sure that it corresponds to each other. So there are the same things mentioned in part B1 and part B2, but please note that also you do not have that much place in part B1 in addressing these kind of issues. So ideas that might be put in part B1 is that you might describe your research group and environment that you will have as a postdoctoral fellow coming to the host institution, explaining how you will be integrated in this team, and saying that you will have administrative support available. So mentioning project units, project departments, or how is it called in your host institution. And also briefly explaining that you will have access to all the needed equipment, infrastructure, etc. As this is just a good signal for evaluators to see that it is safe to fund this hosting institution, this beneficiary, as they do have all the necessary competence. And as I mentioned already, there's a bigger table in part B2. There's a table where you will in more detail describe your hosting institution. And when it comes to quality of the participating organizations, just a reminder that for the global fellowships, you need to assess both the hosting institution in a third country, so for the outgoing phase, and also the European or the stated country host for the returning phase. So all involved hosts needs to be addressed. And again, you do not need to write an essay, but you need to give few specific concrete sentences that highlights the expertise, the quality, and the arrangements for the hosting institution, for the evaluators to understand that yes, this institution is ready to host. And yes, so the part B2, I already mentioned that there are tables in the part B2. In general, there are no overall page limit, as for different projects, there are different amounts, so different number of institutions involved. Here is the CV of the researcher, maximum 5 pages in part B2. And also there are tables that needs to be filled in about the hosting institution. So just note that there should be information corresponding to part B1 and what is put here in part B2. So what is here in this template? So you can just see what is expected here to be put. So role and the profile of the supervisor. So describing qualitatively. So what is the main experience of the supervisor? What project experience he or she has, and so on. Key research facilities, infrastructure, and equipment that is needed for your project that has a hosting institution, and also a previous and current involvement in EU-funded projects. So just to show that the hosting institution has already this experience and they are capable in managing the project and hosting the project. And some very last slides about part B2. And here I just want to highlight to you that these tables needs to be filled in only if you have to put additional information. And so the first step is that you fill in self-assessment tool. Ethics self-assessment is available on Funding and Tenders portal. And you have the checkbox there. You can check if this is relevant to your research or not. Also, in this document, you will have a guidance. If you reply yes to some of the questions about the ethics, there are examples. So what then you should do in this case? And if you have at least one yes, then this is the place in part B2 where you can explain your steps in addressing ethics information. And also the same is about the security screening. This is not very complicated, but also you need to fill in the table, check if this is relevant to your research or not. And then the final part is environmental considerations in the light of the MSCA Green Charter. I showed you yesterday that there are blocks, thematic blocks that you might consider. One of the most oftenly used is, for example, that you choose to have some meetings online instead of traveling, so you reduce your impact on environment, choosing not to travel for every single meeting, but choosing to have some virtually. So this might also be added here as the information relevant to the MSCA Green Charter.